I know I look rather menacing in this light, but I thought it was appropriate for the question I'm going to pose to anyone who sees this. Now, I have views on social issues that are liberal. I would be more inclined to identify with the Democratic Party in terms of who I vote for, but I've had a thought occurring. This Republican field was the largest we've had for any political party in history, and it was also, in my view, the most diverse of any political party ever. You had an African American, two Hispanics, a woman. You get what I'm saying. But what I noticed was that you also had a variety of different ages. You had these young individuals such as Cruz, Rubio, and Jindal, who were in their early 40s. Then you had kind of a middle bracket with uh, Paul and Christie, and they were in their 50s. Then you had the older candidates such as Trump and Fiorina. But the point I'm making is it was it was just really diverse. That's what I'm getting at. But this is kind of going further into what I'm trying to convey. There was an age bracket within the Democratic primary of 1960 that I think is really interesting. You had Kennedy, who was only 43. You had these other candidates who were slightly older or just almost 10 years older, such as Humphrey and Johnson. And for the life of me, I can't understand why that's not the case today. Now, you kind of had that back in 2008 when Obama was 47 and Clinton was 61. But fast forward 8 years later, and now you have Clinton, who is 69 or is going on turning 69 this year, so she's 68 right now. Sanders is 74. And with that being the case, I can't seem to comprehend why in the world it is that way when it wasn't that way before on the Democratic side. And it kind of bothers me only because the party tries to make itself seem as if it is the one of the future. It is the one of inclusive values. Conservatism in the eyes of many Republicans is all about tradition and sticking with status quo, which to some extent we all sort of want in a way, even though we all have our different ideas of what we want to keep and what we want to do away with. But you get the picture, regardless of what your affiliation is. And because of that, I can't seem to understand why the party of the apparent future has these candidates who remind me of an era far gone. They make no sense just in the context of the ideology of this party. This thing of, oh, we're new, we're innovative, and we're brand new. Why can't they have some innovative brand new candidates? I wouldn't even be complaining about this. This is the worst part of it. If they threw in Gillibrand, Booker, and maybe Castro himself. If they threw those three in, I wouldn't be complaining because you would have people in their 40s, a person in their 60s, somebody even in their 70s. And O'Malley, if he was also still in this, you would have that diverse group of different candidates. And I think any of those three I just named before mentioning O'Malley would be would have stand a very good chance of beating Clinton. I'm just gonna leave it at that. And it really kind of disillusions me with the party because again, they are going against what they have preached for decades. That we are this group that is brand new. We have the ideas of the future. Then why can't you be represented by people of the future? Makes no sense to me. And the best time to believe the narrative that they were selling was back in 1960 and definitely 2008. You had a young person. First time it was Kennedy, this time it was Obama. I'm just comparing the two on their age because they were close in age. Obama was slightly older, about 4 years. But the point I'm making is they could have sold that narrative and it would have been realistic. I would have said, oh, they have some validity. They're actually telling the truth. They're actually on top of things. They're realistically saying something and having evidence for it. I would have believed them. And the way it is now, I can't. I can't conceive that you're going to have an entire field of people who could have ran, but they didn't because they wanted to back Clinton. And it really destroys the party's image. You have no competition. And it also says to people such as myself who are with a similar ideology on social issues that even if you agree with that party on those few things, they don't agree with you on what the ages of the candidates should be. I remember Reagan, he said specifically that John Adams once said that we shouldn't judge a president by his age, only by his work. And ever since he told him that, he's been listening ever since, or something to that effect. But the point he was making at that time was that you really couldn't go off of someone's age as how well they would do. And people always associate age with inexperience. And I really think we have to break away from doing that. And I will commend all of the supporters of Rubio and Cruz for getting past their age and recognizing that they share an ideology they can get behind. See, people are worried about Sanders' age and making jokes about he'll die because that's a realistic fear one could have in their 70s. But that ought not to be the reason we disqualify him, especially if we have no one else proposing the ideas he's put in place, which has been the case right now, and it really kind of disappoints me. Only because I don't want my views to just be seen as radical and then also have a person who gets in the White House and dies after having shared those same views with me. So yes, I'm concerned about his health, I'm concerned about his age, but not in a way to where I would disqualify him. And if we only get 1 or 2 years, then so be it. And certainly I would prefer anyone else over Trump, who is he was pretty close in age. Just wanted to throw that out there. Have a good night.